Week 2 is now behind us, and you may need to make some very critical decisions to improve your fantasy roster. So in this video, I'm going to be going over 5 different players that you have to be targeting off waivers, and I'm also going to provide a rapid fire list of players that you have to drop to make room for your rosters. Let's kick things off in New York with Wan'dale Robinson out of the New York Giants. Now, we saw a game where Malik Neighbors had a monster game, but Wan'dale Robinson continues to be a very interesting pick, because when you look at him right now, he came off a season where he had 140 targets in 2024, and he's already had 14 receptions on 18 targets and 197 yards through 2 games, averaging a whopping 19.9 points in PPR formats. He's currently only rostered in 29.9% of ESPN leagues, and he also is currently ranked 11th in yards per target through 2 games. Now, he also has a very, I'd say, optimistic matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 3 on Sunday Night Football. They've actually allowed the 8th most points to opposing wide receivers, and Wan'dale Robinson probably is someone that could probably require maybe 10% of your 5 budget at most, but someone that you can at least rely on as a steady option in your flex spot, because obviously this offense is going to flow directly through Malik Neighbors. We saw what Russell Wilson was able to do when he was slinging the ball with freedom and of course with effectiveness, and if that passing volume is going to continue to play out that way, you can expect Wan'dale Robinson to be someone that will be a beneficiary in that kind of situation. Now, the second player that I want you to go ahead and target is going to be Troy Franklin from the Denver Broncos. He is currently only rostered in 2% of ESPN leagues, and he is someone that I am anticipating will be a very popular waiver wire option. Now, he came off 6 targets in Week 1, saw an uptick in Week 2 with 9 targets. He actually finished on with 8 receptions, 89 yards, had 1 touchdown, and both the targets as well as the receptions in Week 2 were actually career best for him. And it's quite evident that Courtland Sutton didn't have all that great of a game, but I don't think that he will lose that wide receiver 1 status within this Denver Broncos offense. However, I think Troy Franklin is actually poised to make a breakout season happen in his second season. And even though you have Evan Ingram as well as Marvin Mims, those 2 guys don't really concern me, as we're seeing Troy Franklin getting a lot of attention from Bo Nix. And going into the Monday Night Football matchups, he was actually ranked 11th among all wide receivers in total fantasy points, and he is someone that, once again, with the struggles that we're seeing with other players in fantasy such as Matthew Golden, I believe that Troy Franklin really becomes a very safe upside pick in your flex spot, and because of that should be going at least, I'd say, between 8 to 12%, I'd say, of your fab for someone that could provide that kind of ceiling on any given roster. Now, the next player that I want you to target is going to be Elic Ayomanor, who is actually rostered at 7.7% of ESPN rosters. The 4th round draft pick fell on day 3 of the NFL draft this past offseason, and a lot of it was because of the medical concerns that we saw with him. He had some knee issues in college, and another thing as well, he had some drops as well that really made it hard for him as a prospect to really stand out. However, he has been very impressive. He put on a really strong Week 2 performance, getting 4 receptions on 6 targets for 56 yards and 1 touchdown, and so far through 2 games, he's actually the 5th best wide receiver in air yards. He's also the 11th best wide receiver when it comes to first read targets, and he's also the number 1 wide receiver in unrealized air yards. All this is telling me that he is going to continue to be featured. Cam Ward loves to look his way, and Week 2 was a strong indication that despite Calvin Ridley still getting some good targets, because Ridley was still heavily targeted in this game, he had 8 targets in Week 1. He saw 6 targets in Week 2. The big difference here is that we saw Elic, I'm gonna butcher his last name, Ayomanor, actually have the touchdown. They both had actually very similar stat lines, but I think that he is worth at least 5% of your budget, someone that you can make a really strong bid for a high upside opportunity pick for you in Week 3. We have a few more players to go over, but before we do so, we are closing in on 1,000 subscribers here on the channel. If you're getting value, do me a huge solid, hit the like button as well as the subscribe button. Let's go over these last few players. And these next 2 players players. The first one we're going to go over is going to be Kyle Monangai, the running back out of the Chicago Bears. Now, he's currently rostered in only 2.2% of ESPN leagues, but what we're seeing is we saw an increased usage compared to what we saw in week 1, where he had very minimal touches in that matchup, but we saw him have 8 total touches in week 2. His snap count also increased from 13% from week 1, went up to 41% in week 2, and quite frankly, we already know what DeAndre Swift is. He is a home run hitting running back that was really inefficient last year. He had a career low 3.8 yards per carry, and if we continue to see that ineffectiveness, I can't imagine that Monangai won't be someone that will be utilized and can at least be a strong handcuff if anything were, God forbid, to happen to DeAndre Swift's health. And the same can be said about this next player, and that's going to be Blake Corum, running back out of the Los Angeles Rams. He's currently only rostered in 5.3% of ESPN leagues. I did also have Blake Corum as a very viable handcuff, considering that the LA Rams offensive scheme tends to really favor a lot of work towards their RB1. But what we are seeing is that Kyren Williams hasn't been all that effective. Very similar to what we saw from Swift last year, we see Kyren only averaging 3.8 yards per carry through 2 games, and we're also seeing the snap count go down just a little bit, because in week 1, Kyren Williams had a strong hold of this backfield with 82% of the snaps versus Corum 17%. And even though Williams still had a very strong 70% of the snaps in week 2, we saw Corum's go up to 30%. So if we continue to see any kind of inefficiencies within Kyren Williams, it'd be very intriguing to see how the Rams will be utilizing Corum, who was able to get into the end zone on Sunday to at least make him a very viable start in week 2. With all the talk about players that you're looking to add, here are 4 players that I'm going to be dropping from all my rosters. And the first one is going to be actually Luther Burden, who unfortunately has been a complete disappointment. He has had only 3 targets, 2 receptions for 2 yards. The next player is going to be actually Colston Loveland, who also, just like his teammates, only had 3 targets and 2 receptions and 12 yards through 2 games. The next player that you're also going to drop is going to be running back Jaden Blue from the Dallas Cowboys. He has not played through 2 games, and with Javonte Williams having a breakout season so far and Miles Sanders there as an RB2, I can imagine Jaden Blue will be someone that will make much noise anytime soon. And the last one you're going to actually drop is going to be wide receiver Xavier Legette from the Carolina Panthers. He has been absolutely ineffective for this offense and for your fantasy rosters, and what's pretty crazy is that he has had 15 targets for 4 receptions and only 8 yards. So if you're looking to make some room, these are the 4 players that you got to consider dropping from your rosters to clear up space for your waiver wires for week 3. Hey guys, you made it to the very end of the video. Thank you so much for making it. It means all the world. And as I said earlier, we are inching closer to 1,000 subscribers. So if you got value in this video, do me a huge solid and hit that like button as well as the subscribe button. Best of luck to you in your waivers, and be sure to tune in at the end of the week where I go over the must starts that you got to consider on your rosters for week 3. In the meantime, take care. God bless. Peace.